is happening, fellow fantasy GMs? I am JJ Wang. He is the bearded one, DJ Dub. And with our powers combined, we are the Fantasy Couriers.
So, NFL usually is kind of a slow time right now. It's when we're looking at draft prospects, and then all of a sudden, Buffalo's prima donna receiver, who was not happy having a pretty decent year last year but down by his own, gets traded to the Houston Texans for a bag of peanuts, and he was sent with some picks. Do you like this trade for either team, both teams, neither team? What do you think of Stephon Diggs going to the Houston Texans?
I mean, Stephon Diggs has been a great receiver. Kind of really tailed off at the end of last season. Him and Josh Allen evidently weren't buddy like they were supposedly we all thought they were. But I think it works good for Houston. I mean, they didn't get him for a whole lot. I mean, and it's Stephon Diggs. They got, of course, Houston has a good quarterback who can spread the ball around. We've proven. They got Nico Collins and Tank Dell, so I think it helps Houston as a whole. I think it hurts kind of Tank Dell and Nico Collins as far as fantasy goes. I think it kind of limits their ceiling because Stephon Diggs is still good. I think he's still going to get his. As far as Buffalo goes, I mean, it's complete rebuild time, and you kind of got to worry about that. You do have Josh Allen. I totally agree with that. I mean, Josh Allen's great. But Josh Allen really wasn't great until he got Stephon Diggs. That's what made Josh Allen take that next step. And if they don't have that elite wide receiver one in there, it might be troublesome for Buffalo. So we got a little rebuild going on in Buffalo.
So does it affect Josh Allen? Is he still QB1? Are you moving him down to like 3 or 4 or lower?
I think it hurts. I think it definitely hurts. I mean, Stephon Diggs has been an elite wide receiver one. And now I know Josh Allen was still QB1 last year with the season that Stephon Diggs had in the second half of the season. He was still able to perform rather well. But I think he takes a definite hit. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I wouldn't drop him far. I mean, I might drop him down to I think Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen is definite competition. You know, they're going to be battling for the spots. I mean, anybody in that top 5, I think, can be the QB1. I think the space between, let's say, Josh Allen and CJ Stroud, I think that space has closed a little bit. So I think Josh Allen definitely come back to the pack a little bit.
Does this make CJ Stroud a top 5 dynasty quarterback or even redraft with those weapons? I mean,
well, I think CJ Stroud was probably at the number 5 quarterback for dynasty in a lot of places, maybe like 5 or 6. I think it might bump him up a little bit, but I mean, how far is he going to go? I mean, is he going to throw for 5,000 yards? Is he going to throw for 45 touchdowns? But I mean, probably. I mean, it's possible, but I think the way this team wants to run or wants to play, I don't think they want to pass for that many yards. I mean, I think it might bump him a little bit. I mean, how can it not help having Stephon Diggs on your team? Like I said, it might help the team as a whole, but individually, I think there's going to be some hits to the individual players.
There are basically now in Houston 4 pass catchers. We're going to have Tank Dell come back from injury, who undersized, probably is going to be more of a gadget kind of guy, and that's what we thought coming into the league. Nico Collins, who's going to be the big-bodied receiver for this team, who finally came into his own, and Stephon Diggs, who's just an elite talent all-around receiver, can sort of do a little bit of everything. Am I correct? I think I heard they might slot him some.
Yeah. I think they probably will. I think they'll be rotating him and Tank Dell out in that slot, in and out. But I have heard that Tank's Dell recovery isn't going as fast as I think they have hopes, so that might help out Diggs in the beginning of the season, and they can bring in Dell, I guess, maybe ease him in a little bit more. But, I mean, maybe that's why they did it. Maybe they was worried about Tank Dell being 100% healthy for the season opener, and you don't want to start off slow. I mean, Texans have really got a good chance of making the playoffs and possibly making a run. So if you can get Stephon Diggs for cheap, I mean, why not bring him in there as as a backup? Definitely not a backup plan, but a backup plan in case Tank Dell isn't 100% injury and can't go in the beginning of the season.
What about Dalton Schultz too? So we're looking at Dalton Schultz. We're looking at Nico Collins. Those two are the touchdown guys. How does
Yeah,
it?
I mean,
Diggs got 8 touchdowns. That's about what he gets.
like I
TJ,
said, I think it hurts everybody individually. I mean, I can't see the numbers. I mean, you're bringing in an elite wide. I mean, there was only three options pretty much last year. Now you're bringing in an elite option. I mean, some of their passes have to be taken away and given to Diggs. So I think it probably, I don't know who's going to hurt the most. I mean, somebody's getting. I think honestly, it probably hurts Tank Dell the most. I would say. But I think Nico Collins is still like that deep threat touchdown guy. But yeah, I think it still hurts them all individually.
it's a 1 year thing because they did wipe out the last 3 years of Diggs's contract. He's going to make bank this year. I think, what does it look like, about $22.5 million this year, which is good because they're not paying CJ Stroud's contract. In case we didn't mention it earlier, but just so everybody knows, a 2025 second round pick, which is actually the Vikings. So it's not even the Houston Texans. It was a bonus one. And then they get him plus a 24 sixth rounder and a 25 fifth rounder. So it's kind of crazy. Like it seems free to me. Like they got this pick in a trade earlier. Houston's on the uptick. Does this elevate Houston any, or did we just expect them to throw the ball? And I mean Noah Brown played well. He's going to be ultimately hurt, but does Stephon Diggs? I mean, he's a great player. Would they have been better off taking that $22 million? And I mean, I don't know what they could have done. They're looking like a great team. I don't know what I mean.
I think their defense is already is really good. I think they still got a little cap maneuver, but I'm not even gonna act like I know because I really don't. But like this is, I feel like with the Tank Dell injury, I think this is where they've seen like a little hole that they have, and it's $22 million. The cap went up 25. 29 or something crazy. So, I mean, these guys throw around money like it's nothing. So I don't think the money or the cap is really an issue. I think they've seen an opportunity to get a 30-year-old previously elite wide receiver to bring on your team. And I think they're shooting for the Super Bowl here.
That sounds like it's a quick shoot, and I like it. Like you know, they were one of our favorite. You were on them too early, and then you jumped. You need to jump back. You need to get your birthday cup out.
I still use the cup all the time. I mean, it upsets me a little bit that it wasn't Davis Mills and it's CJ Stroud, but I'm a big CJ Stroud fan. I got him in several places in fantasy, and we all know when I have you on my fantasy team, I'm a huge fan. So, I mean, I still like Houston. I mean, I love Nico Collins, CJ Stroud. I mean, I got all these guys on the team. I want all of them to succeed, man. I'm still on the bandwagon.
So we're going to lead that into our conversation, but I forgot to tell you something, JJ Wang. We must be hitting the big time because the other day we were officially banned on Twitter. We were banned for about a week on Twitter. Like,
we were on Twitter. All right.
Our account was flagged and banned. I don't know why.
Hold on, it's not Twitter, it's X, but
Elon Musk must not like the Houston Texans or the teams we're rooting for. But it was funny. I went in, I was going to post our pod last week. And I was like, why can't I do this? And it says, you have been banned on X. And I'm like, I never did find out why, because it says you violated the something or another. So all I do each week on X, really, we're not very I do more active stuff through my personal one for the Fantasy Pros, but we post our things for fans to see. So if anybody knows, or if you reported us, tell us what we did to tick you off. But I thought it makes me feel like we're big time. We're getting banned. I mean, we're like Donald Trump now. We're like anybody who's big in the world that people are mad.
Let me tell you, if you want to get banned, I can start saying a whole bunch of stuff that could get us banned. I mean, I'm ready.
On here doesn't get us banned. I just pop up links. That's all it is. That's the funny.
I mean, I'm ready to go. I mean, I've got things in the back of my head that could get us banned all over the place.
Don't worry, moms and dads. I've got him toned down. I've got him on a leash here. Sorry.
I won't do that.
So that leads us to think today we're going to talk about, for the next little bit of time, wide receiver rooms. The Houston Texans room, we both agree, is improved. Even if Tank Dell, being that it's a one year deal basically for Diggs, it does seem to be they're thinking what you're thinking, that Dell might not be ready quite yet. I mean, if not, Tank Dell has an excellent mentor, a seasoned veteran to teach him this year. So the Houston Texans rank as a fairly high wide receiver room. Maybe I should change the title to pass catchers. It might be what it isn't up on the final docket, but so let's look throughout the league, talk at some wide receiver rooms today. And what rooms we think are elite, what rooms we think we don't know about, and what rooms are just total garbage. We're not going to hit all 32 teams, or else we'll be here for like 7 hours, but we'll highlight a couple as we go through. So let's start off. Basically, I think we're close to agreeing that the top four, you tell me if you're close, we're looking at Cincinnati, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Miami. Is that where we would look if we had to pick four top ones? Is there anybody else you would throw in there?
So say that I was right now. Go ahead. Redo that. My bad.
Cincinnati.
Okay.
Philadelphia, and we'll get into details of it in a moment. Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Miami.
And Miami. Yeah, so but that sounds good. Cincinnati, does T. Higgins sign to come back, right? Or is he still out?
He's franchised right now. So we're going this at this point before. Okay. I mean, ideally, if I was Buffalo, I'm trading the farm, and T. Higgins is a Buffalo Bill for the next 7 years. But we'll see.
So I would say that's a pretty good four. I've got no issues there, but I mean, honestly, I think Houston kind of belongs in that top tier. And it might sound crazy. Now I know I'm eliminating a quarterback play out of this. I know quarterback helps a lot, but just going by, if you stick a quarterback here, what's going to happen to these receivers? And I think Minnesota's receiving room with Addison and TJ Hawkinson, of course, Justin Jefferson. I think if you're going to put the 49ers, which like I do, I put them up there. If you're going to put the 49ers in Houston and even Miami, because they've got two great ones, but nothing else. They don't have that tight end. I think you've got to put Minnesota. Got to put Minnesota in there, right?
I won't. You won't get arguments from me because I think KJ Osborne is a sneaky, really good third receiver that you wouldn't mind putting in there that can step up when needed along with those guys. Yeah, I have no objections to putting him in there, and I think Miami, I would argue hometownly, but I do like the addition. Like their tight end room is garbage, but they luckily have added Jonnu Smith, who showed out in Atlanta, so could be a presence down in the end zone. And oh my goodness, one of the tight ends from Kansas City, so maybe he brings some winning ways. Jordy Fortson. So we'll see what happens there. But he's nothing. But I like the Jonnu Smith signing. He finally learned how to play football, so it could be not bad. But I might be with you, like having them in Minnesota. They might be at Minnesota. They probably would be two close teams as like 4A, 4B together. Maybe 3A, BC with the 49ers. But would we be okay to say that Cincinnati and Philadelphia? Oh man, is Philadelphia the best receiver room right now? I think I would say they're one. What would you say?
I would say Philadelphia is probably number one. But I think, honestly, I think Minnesota's really, really close. But this all depends on Addison taking that step. And I would say the Eagles are number one. And with Cincinnati, with the lack of tight end, I think that kind of hurts them for that number one spot. But I think the Eagles are pretty safe there.
I mean, Cincinnati, I am having quite the day. Who did they sign? They just signed a tight end.
But also, the 49ers
Mike Gesicki. So they got a receiver at tight end, not a blocker, that's for sure.
Well, he's terrible anyway. It doesn't matter. But the 49ers, their room's really good. I think they could battle for that number one spot too. I think other than Miami, I don't think Miami could be the true number one. But I think any of the other teams, I think Minnesota, 49ers, and Eagles, I think they can battle.
Okay, so what keeps, say, the Cowboys?
The lack of a second receiver. So they got Jake Ferguson, who's a solid tight end, nothing special. He's not an elite tight end. I think that hurts a little bit. You got Brandon Cooks if he's coming back. I don't know, but they don't have a number two receiver that anybody. Like CeeDee Lamb's great, but you know who else is great? AJ Brown is great. Justin Jefferson is great. Jamar Chase is great. But what makes their room so great is that they got that number two that is really, really good. The Cowboys don't have that, and that's why I got Cowboys in that second tier there.
What if I throw you a dark horse? I got a team that I don't think anybody's going to think of as a could be in the top 10 talent-wise. That we're throwing out quarterback, right?
Yeah, I thought quarterback. Yeah,
Tennessee Titans. DeAndre Hopkins,
absolutely
Calvin
not.
Ridley, maybe Burks, maybe Akina Westbrook's kind of like KJ Osborne. Chig has the talent, but let's say without the tight end, without the quarterback, that room got a lot better with Calvin Ridley.
I mean, it got better, but I mean, it's still DeAndre Hopkins is still solid. I mean, he's good. I mean, he's getting older. Calvin really was okay at times last. None of these guys are. I don't think either one of these guys are comfortable top 10 wide receivers. So if neither one of your top 2 wide receivers are a top 10 wide receiver, I think it's going to be really hard to sneak into that combined Tennessee or that combined top 10 room. But I mean, I'd take somebody like the Bears, right? I would pick the Bears over the Titans, right? You would.
I could go there. So we're looking DJ Moore. We're looking at my boy Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet.
Yes, I mean, I would see them like a much better version than Tennessee. Keenan's getting old, but if we expect Keenan to come in and do what Keenan does, I mean, he always is an elite wide receiver. And DJ Moore proved last year with, when they throw him the ball, I mean, he's a good wide receiver.
Could they?
I think the Bears could be my sneaky wide receiver room, like Tennessee could be yours.
Are the Bears what could the Bears this year, sans quarterback, because I think we're sort of differing on what we think of the quarterback, be Seattle, who have 2 good receivers, that rookie. So Seattle last year. So I've seen them forecasted basically to go Caleb Williams, blah 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 blah, with the 9th pick take. Whatever receivers left over at that point, and there's like 3 or 4 great receivers there that could be the JSN hole, and then their tight ends are better, so they could be a richer man Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, I can see honestly, the Bears in Seattle, I think they're really close as far as wide receiver rooms. I mean, DK Metcalf, I mean, I don't think he's a true number 1, but he's a solid number 2. And I expect Jackson Smith and Jigba to be that number 1 guy, hopefully. So I think the Bears and the Seahawks are great comps to each other. I mean, I think they both pretty much ride that same wavelength.
Speaking of teams that had solid receiver rooms and we're seeing them move, the Chargers. Is that currently the worst receiving room? Because we're looking at Quentin Johnson, who can't catch a football, Palmer, who shows up and then gets hurt, but he played 3 games in college, hyperbole, and I think Will Dissly's their tight end now. They got
All right, so when you say worst, I think the Chargers are in the running for worst, right? I mean, it looks bad, but you also got to look at the Broncos. They weren't really good last year. They lose Jerry Jeudy. I'm not really sure what Sutton's going to do, right? You got Arizona. Arizona's receiving core not really good unless I missed something.
Marvin Harrison. I'm assuming Marvin Harrison for them.
Yeah. I mean, the Giants are really
the
bad.
Giants is the worst.
And then you also got New England and Carolina. Both of them are really, really bad. So I think all of those teams, while I don't think there's a worst, I think all of them are in the running to end up as the worst.
Ooh, that's some messy stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, all of those teams.
They got Deontay, so they got a 120 catch guy, and they're putting some people in place. So
I might move Carolina out there with the addition of Deontay, so they might not be in the running for the worst, but they'll still be bad. And I think, honestly, right now, you got to put the Bills in there, too.
You know, I think you said the name that I think if I had to pick right now, it'd be between the Giants and the Patriots. As far as the Giants have a bunch of guys that look like me. They're all my size and about 5 pounds less. And that's
they're really bad.
But they're really, really fast, but they're not that. They keep getting the same player, and then you got the Patriots who we're looking at Traquan Thornton, Juju, and.
But I mean, But if we're looking at rooms here, minus quarterback, I mean, the Bills have to be. They got Khalil Shakir and Chris Samuel. That's their top two wide receivers.
Oh,
That's not. I mean, now they do have the tight end, and they do have Dalton Kincaid, so that might give them a little bump over those other two teams. But I mean, I think they're in contention for a worst room here.
oh, that is, yeah, yeah. If we're having to wipe out the quarterback with the quarterback, I think Josh Allen could end up doing what Mahomes had to do. I mean, Mahomes, he got a burner, but that room's still pretty putrid. If you get like other than Kelsey, I mean, Hollywood Brown's a divisive character down in Kansas City, and then Scantling's gone. Like, who's left? Hollywood. Rasheed Rice has had too much weed in his car. He's going to jail. Sky Moore doesn't remember. Well, he's playing D2 football still, apparently. So you're looking at Kelsey and Brown, and maybe Justin Ross, who decided.
Yeah, not. But yeah, I've got the Chiefs right above the guys that are fighting for the worst room in the league. I mean, even with Kelsey, I mean, Kelsey's fine, but he's also 34. I mean, at some point he's going to regress. You take the Chiefs, you take like Jacksonville. I mean, you take the Ravens. I feel like the Chiefs and the Ravens kind of got the same wide receiver. They got great tight ends. But other than who has a wide receiver on either of those teams do you really want on your fantasy team? Maybe Zay Flowers, maybe. But other than that,
yeah, I would take Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, and Isaiah Likely over any three players in the Chiefs wide receiver room. So I'd put them probably right above.
well, yeah, as far as, but if you're going to talk, if you're putting all them, you've got to put, if you're going to be talking Andrews, you've also got to be talking Kelsey too. So he's got to be in there. So you're not going to take any of them over Kelsey, right?
Andrews,
maybe. Andrews, maybe. Andrews, maybe.
Or they're an arguable thing. Like, I would probably take Andrews over. I'm more of a guy on there. Here's one. This room has potential to be the worst, or we could be talking about them in a year because of our love for this guy. Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed. Quietly, Bo Melton's an interesting guy. I've had him a couple weeks on DFS. Then you got the tight ends there. What is that? You got Kraft and I just lost the other guy's name. Musgrave. And then out of the backfield, so if you can count Josh Jason, catch him. So the Packers receiver room, they have potential here. Starting the year, probably 12, and then what's the ceiling?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of where I've got them here. I got them in the tier I call like that what if tier, like what's going to happen. I mean, they're in the same tier as the Washington Commanders. I mean, they still got McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. What if, just for like the Indianapolis Colts we was talking earlier, they're in that what if tier. I think they can be really good, but I think Green Bay is probably at the top of that tier just for like the overall value. You look at these other teams, you got the Colts, you got Michael Pittman, not much else. In New Orleans, you got Olave, not much else. The Steelers, you do got George Pickens and Freiermuth, but who knows? And not much else. Not much else. So I think as a whole, from top to bottom, I think you would probably take Green Bay as a better room. But all those other teams have elite wide receiver potential. That's what Green Bay is lacking. Green Bay lacks that elite wide receiver one. They got a bunch of number twos, I think.
They're a team of twos. Who's going to jump? That's what they need.
But I just don't. Maybe none of them jump. Maybe they're just all number twos. But like these other guys, the Colts, I mean, they've got Michael Pittman, who's a one. Washington's questionable. I would definitely put them probably at the bottom of the tier, maybe even in that next tier with kind of like Jacksonville and the Browns. Maybe in that area with the Commanders. But yeah, I think Green Bay, we love them. I mean, I think there's possibility there, but it wouldn't surprise me if they stink it up next year. So
here's one that makes me puke a little bit. If your wide receiver room is Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, an aging Alan Lazard who's liked by the quarterback, Jason Brownlee, who showed up a couple times, Tyler Conklin, who's that quiet, not too bad tight end. Like he's probably on a lot of teams starting week to week when you have to start a tight end. What do you think of the Jets receiving room? And let's throw Aaron Rodgers in there because we know the room is crap if we are not playing Aaron Rodgers. because we saw that last year. They need
Well, that's
quarterback.
but to be fair, I mean, there was crap because Zach Wilson was crap.
And he's gone. Thank goodness for
When
that.
it wasn't Zach Wilson, it was okay. So I mean, I still think if you get a solid quarterback in there, I think they got a good run game, so I think that helps out the passing game. I mean, you might think it's kind of gross. I kind of like it a little bit. I'm a big Garrett.
I like the wide receiver healthy.
I'm a big Garrett Wilson fan. If Mike Williams, of course, staying healthy, I think they got a possibility. And I know and this might sound stupid. You might not like it, but I kind of see the Jets kind of like right there with the Lions. I know the Lions got Amon-Ra and Laporta, but really nothing after that. I know they got Jamison Williams. I mean, hopefully, maybe one day. But I think the Jets, the Lions, who else did I have here? Tampa Bay and the Rams are kind of all in that one little tier. That's kind of how I got them. Do you see anything out of the way on that, or is it kind of okay?
I can see that. They're the guys that have like the stud and the lower. I just realized a mistake I made. KJ Osborne is no longer a Minnesota Viking. He is a New England Patriot. So the Vikings.
Well, there you go. That makes maybe New England isn't the worst room in the league.
Yeah, they got KJ Osborne as their one though. Kendrick Bourne is married us. That's still not great. They're all
terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't see any argument with any of those teams that are in there. There's been a lot of movement, so a lot of these teams that really come down to what's going to mesh. Like we have the Jaguars, they're low, but we love Gabe Davis. So is this what Gabe Davis needed? Kind of like Christian Kirk. He was okay and had spurts, and then he went to Jacksonville. So Gabe Davis, maybe Jacksonville is the place where putzes go to explode. Guys that we love for some weird reason. And I had a lot of Christian Kirk. And then when he went to Jacksonville, I'm like, I'm done with you, dude. Then all of a sudden, he just wanted to kick me.
Yeah, so I feel like the last team we've got to bring up here, I feel like we've brought up pretty much every team. The only one we haven't brought up, and you mentioned them earlier, you kind of like them, that's Atlanta. Where are you putting – you seem to like Atlanta a lot here. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't put words in your mouth. But where do you slide Atlanta? Do you put Atlanta with that Lions and Jets tier? Or do you put them with that Green Bay tier?
Gosh, it's in my Atlanta change. This is one where I have to think quarterback because I love Kirk Cousins. Like we're saying, we're throwing him out, but Atlanta's got Drake London, Darnell Mooney, Rondell Moore.
When I say throw out quarterback, I mean let's just put an average, a good quarterback.
And we did
one that. let's see. Yeah, so let's put Kirk Cousins on every team in the league. Who's going to have the best wide receiver?
Yeah, I I think the potential with Kirk Cousins for this team is Drake London could be as good. People are gonna hate me for this. As good as Amon-Ra St. Brown. They're from the same pedigree. He was trained by Amon-Ra. That's why I've been a fan of him. He just had some terrible quarterback play and couldn't get touchdowns. And if the team's not going to score, I mean, they're still going to run. But now he doesn't have to be – he's got Rondell Moore to be the slot receiver. He's got Darnell Mooney who's going to stretch the field. Neither of the guys have stepped up to their potential, but the potential in those two guys, and they got them on the cheap. Plus, if Kyle Pitts has a competent quarterback, I mean, if I recall right, Kirk Cousins likes tight ends. So between those four, this team I think is going to make a step up. And – I could totally see that.
You would hope they
12 to 13, if not higher.
You would hope they make a step up. I mean, they've got an upgraded coach, hopefully, an upgraded quarterback. If it gets worse, then you might as well just ban the team and just get them out of the NFL. But yeah, I think it can only go up. I think they all get better. I think it all gets better this season. Will Drake London be a top 12 wide receiver? I think it's possible. I mean, if Michael Pittman is competing for that top 12 spot, I think a Drake London could competing with that top 12 spot, especially if Kirk Cousins is playing quarterback. So,
I've got a team we missed because I'm looking at a couple that I might lower Minnesota than you. Might disagree with them with my loss of somehow missing KJ Osborne. Trent Sherfield. number
He
3
doesn't
receiver.
think about numbers for anything. So
Here's a team that I like a lot, and they were decent last year. And it's because it's got my favorite draftee last year, the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew
yeah, I
Stafford.
mentioned them a second ago in that Lions team. We're kind of within the
Yeah,
Lions.
okay. I was in the middle of brains, but I might have them. That one could be a team that pushes up because you got the always talented Cooper Cup, Puka Nakua. If he takes another step, holy moly, he's Puka Nakua and Cooper Cup to me, from what I've seen, just in their play and the way they go, seem very similar in play, which bodes well for a career for Puka. And Demarcus Robinson showed that he can play pretty well on that team. He had a couple of games in there, and then they've signed a couple tight ends, and maybe someone will step in. But just those two, if we're looking at like teams up there, if we're saying that the Vikings could be pretty good without really, I mean, Trent Sherfield being your 3, N'Keal Harry, those kind of guys, and a good tight end, these guys have a burner and 2 really good talents. They could be in that discussion to a point.
The difference between Minnesota and Tampa and the Rams here is Minnesota. I do like Cooper Cup, yeah. I mean, but he is aging, and Puka Nakua did play well, but he was a rookie. So let's see where that goes. Justin Jefferson is the number 1 wide receiver in the league, and who's their tight? Hawkinson was it Hawkinson, right? Hawkinson, yeah, Hawkinson. It's like a top 3 tight end. With Addison being, a very positive number 2. So I think that's the difference. I think the high end talent of Minnesota trumps, I don't want to say the mid range talent, the below high range talent and with the Rams. I think that's the only difference. Now, if you're talking like, I can see they're putting the Rams with Dallas. I can see that just because Dallas lacks depth. I mean, maybe a Tampa Bay you could slide in there because we like what their receivers do. But yeah, I think the Rams could definitely be I don't know top 5, but 6, 7, 8.
Okay, I'm going to throw a zag. We didn't talk about this before. We're going to close out. I want you to. We got to plant a flag right now. Best wide receiver room, worst wide receiver room in the NFL. Best and worst. And it'll be interesting to see. I've got mine ready. If you need a moment while we're recording, I threw him under the bus. He doesn't know this is coming, but I've got mine.
I think the worst for me is probably. I think it's a tie. I don't want to say it's a tie, but I think I'm going to go Broncos. I think the Broncos are really, really bad. They don't really have a good tight end. Cortland Sutton, he's their number 1, but he's kind of like a wide receiver 3. Marvin Mims, I mean, he had like a good game like a year or 2 ago, and it hasn't been seen since. So I think the Broncos could be the worst. And as far as the best, you know what? I'm going out on a limb here, and I'm going to say
mine.
I'm going to say the Houston Texans.
Yes. You convinced me. Like that, it's good. This podcast just got shorter. Like through our discussions, I wouldn't have said it till we started talking, but. If you have, let's say Tank comes back halfway even or whatever. I mean, without Tank, Noah Brown filled in for spots. I mean, even though he's not a slot receiver, put Stephon Diggs in the slot, put Noah Brown in. Maybe John Michie has something in the tank and he just needed to get over there. They haven't, I don't think they've cut Woods yet, but we'll see that from that. But that squad and Dalton Schultz showed out. They could easily be the number 1 group in the league. And I'm going back to the New York Giants. They're my worst. Jalen Hyatt, Darius Slayton, and Wan'Dale Robinson are your top 3 receivers.
I would rather have them than what's going on in Denver.
I would not. I would not. Like they're both.
Yeah, they're both really bad. They're both dreadful.
Garbage, but at least Denver has a couple of those tight ends that could make up for it, and they also signed Josh Reynolds. So I like Josh Reynolds better than any of the Denver receivers. He might be a sneaky guy to draft this year as your wide receiver 3 because he's Josh Reynolds. I mean, far be it that I don't even know who's throwing him the ball, but that's beside the point. So there you go. It's our hodgepodge hot mess of receiving options. I'll probably still call it wide receiver rooms because that's fun. JJ Wang, give us some wisdom to close out. And before you give wisdom, in case you had, what about I loved seeing Jason Kelsey show up at WrestleMania. Good job with his luchador mask.
Yeah, so that was going to be my words of wisdom. Not really words of wisdom. I just wanted to discuss my thought on the WrestleMania night one last night. They did Travis Kelsey and Lane Johnson, I think it was. And I'm not going to lie, these guys come in, they come up, they're jumping over the rope, they're springing over the rope, and these guys are 300 pounds, popping over that rope. I was like, wow, these guys are. I'm not saying they weren't athletic before, but when you see these offensive linemen, you're not necessarily thinking, wow, athleticism, right? But I mean, it was fun to see them. I didn't expect it, but once it happened, I was like, yeah, it kind of makes sense. But what I want to ask you is, like, so I know it's WrestleMania. They do it with SummerSlam. They do it with all the bigger pay-per-views. I'm just not a fan of the big stadium football arenas. I think, for one, I don't know why you would want to go to I know why they do it. I get it. I mean, it makes sense. I know why. But I don't, as a fan, I don't know why you wouldn't want to go to a football stadium, sit in the very top row, because that's where they were sitting last night for WrestleMania, and trying to look at that real little tiny ring. Doesn't make any sense. I don't know why you want to do that. Plus, I think the atmosphere, when you put them in a 20,000 seat basketball stadium where everything is coming down over you, I think it makes for a much better environment. Now, of course, if you can get 75,000 people to come watch you, you're going to get 75,000 people to come watch you just because it's so much more money. But I think the environment of the plus it was like 38 degrees last night. I'm not trying to go there for 4 hours standing outside in the cold. So yeah, so would you rather it be in like an NBA stadium, or do you like the outdoor stadiums?
I have been to one NFL game. I love the NFL more than any sport in the world, and the only desire I ever have is to go see a game in Miami or the Super Bowl. Neither of which probably will ever happen, because I got lucky that we got decent seats because we had a connection. But to go there, pay what they paid for WrestleMania or for a football game. I had a buddy who had top row seats at Washington for years, and they got to finally move down some, but paying out the wazoo to barely see the game when I can stay home, watch 12 games at a time, not sit in traffic. We're getting old and curmudgeony, but it really is about the experience. I got to see The Rock do the people's elbow up there. You're watching, you're going there, you're paying hundreds of dollars to watch a TV because you can't see them because they're under an awning. Plus, it's really stinking cold. And I'm also imagining some of those slaps in the 38-degree weather. It's like, nope. I'm
yes. Like I've been to a couple wrestling things, and I've been fortunate enough to sit Dana down by the aisle. I mean, if I'm lucky enough to be able to get there, fine. But like I said, it costs way too much money. But so before we end, who you've got tonight? Do you think Cody Rhodes wins, or do you think they keep the belt on Roman Reigns?
I think Cody's gonna win. The Rock's gonna take out Roman because it's all rules, and you saw him get speared last night. So by the time this posts, everybody will know the real answer. But I think they're good. I was surprised. Because they took the belt off of. They gave Sammy the belt last night, which I didn't think was going to happen. But I think they're going to finally drop the belt because they are probably getting backlash because Roman has wrestled 60 matches or something, and that's been the new argument. He's done it for years. Hogan,
he's done. No, but this is no. So but it's no different than what they did with Hulk Hogan back in the day. Hulk Hogan did the same thing. You've never seen Hulk Hogan on TV until later in his career when he went to WCW and formed the NWO. But before that, when he was in WWE or WWF at the time, you never saw Hogan wrestle on TV. It was only
I saw the numbers pop up on the chart. He wrestled a lot more. The numbers.
He wrestled like a lot of the house shows and stuff.
As champion, yeah, house shows in general. Jay Roman's real name. He's got he's doing it for the right reasons. He wants to spend time with his kids. That's cool. But then people that want to watch TV, I don't go to a football game to watch the backup quarterback throw.
Oh, I agree. I think if he's not going to be a full-time wrestler, then I don't think you can put the title on him. I mean, if you're going to have the title, you've got to be there every week, or if not every week. And if you're not wrestling, you still got to be there to drop promos to represent the belt and whatever you're doing. But yeah, I don't like it when they do this kind of stuff. But they're trying to move on from the old era. The Vince McMahon era. They want to bring in all their new guys. They want all these records to be broken. They want the greatest of all times to be in this area, which is fine. I got no problems with it. I mean, it's going to happen eventually. But yeah, I think I think Cody finally wins tonight. So yeah, as always, trust yourself and trust the process.